Good evening, friends. Thanks for joining our webinar on SAFe principles, Scaled Agile Framework principles. I'm Saket Bansal, and today I will be talking about the principles behind Scaled Agile Framework practices. Now, before we begin, I need to know the audience who all are there. And for that, I usually conduct a few polls, and these polls will help us in knowing each other, and so I can modify or focus content accordingly. So before we go forward, please select some of the poll options. The first question is pretty standard, where I ask, so which of the following represents your project role? So who all are with us? Project managers, scrum masters, leaders, developers, testers. So pick up your options. Yes, so I'm closing the poll, and we do have lots of project manager and project leaders joining in. And the second question which I ask is that which certification you are targeting in upcoming, say, period. So yeah, somehow the SAFe certification is not written here, so you can pick up others if you are thinking of doing any SAFe certification. Uh, but yeah, PMI, ACP, CSP, PMP remains there. And I missed talking about this particular poll, and now it will take time to create that poll here. How many of you are familiar with SAFe? So you can put it into a chat box or a question box, whichever you have in your panel, and tell me that are you comfortable or do you know SAFe in advance? So yes, no is good enough to go. As much I have received inputs, we are finding no more than yes, and the yes are very few, yeah, so great. So we have lots of no's. Okay, so this makes things a bit difficult because we were talking about SAFe principles. So I will try to give a basic introduction of SAFe, and then we get into the fundamentals related to the SAFe. Thanks for selecting all these polls. Now we get back to our presentation. So the agenda which I have thought of is something that I will give an introduction and overview of Scaled Agile Framework. Then we will discuss principles. Now in recent time, say in less than 2 months, SAFe Scaled Agile Framework has included some of the principles or precisely speaking 9 principles in their framework. So we will discuss those 9 principles, and after that we will take questions. So in between, if you get any queries, you can keep posting them into a Q&A box. But in today's session, since the content are a bit more, I may not be able to take Q&A break in between. So I will be taking the consolidated Q&A break at the end. Now let's talk about Scaled Agile framework. Now the Scaled Agile framework is a publicly available, freely available framework for scaling Agile. Now, before you scale Agile, you need to have Agile implemented. Now, the problem was, which Scaled Agile framework is solving, is that Agile teams were doing great work, but they were working into small teams. So 5 to 9 people working together and delivering working software, potentially shippable software every sprint. But when the organization wanted to take this thing at a bigger scale, where they want to have 100, 200 people working and delivering an integrated solution, things were not that pretty much defined. Yes, people were figuring out on their own. They created some of their own framework or practices, but Scaled Agile framework comes up with set of proven practices, so any organization can start with or scale their Agile with, and later on they can adapt based on their environment or their needs. So in a nutshell, Scaled Agile framework provides a mechanism to take Agile from a one team to multiple team, and it also provides a mechanism to take the agility which was evolved, discovered, and utilized at a team level to an organization level. So how do we do it at a summary level? Scaled Agile framework has 3 levels, or you can think of 3 layers. So we do have Agile teams as we were having before, and most of these Agile teams follows Scrum ceremonies, Scrum project management practices. Means they do their sprint planning, they do daily stand-up, they do sprint reviews, sprint retrospective. But in order to make things work, we have a program management layer. Now in this particular diagram, I am only showing 4 teams, but usually the Scaled Agile framework starts with 5 teams onwards. So it is more more suitable for groups where 5 to 12 teams working together, and they need an defined ceremonies, roles to coordinate, monitor, plan their interdependencies and their interdependent work. So since the team were doing individually, till the time you have 4 or 5 teams, they may figure it out, they manage the interdependencies by talking to each other. But when the scale goes beyond 5 teams, means you have more than 50 people, then there was the need occurs that we need to have some roles, some people focusing on integration, program management, dependency resolution related work. So SAFe talks about a program management layer, which is primarily talking about alignment, program management, and releasing things. Now, program management or this section, which is a program management and team, is called Agile Release Train. So Agile Release Train in a nutshell can be visualized as it's a group of Agile teams or 100-125 people who work as a one group. They plan together, they commit for the goals together, and they execute things together. So it's and this group is called Agile Release Train. Now, since I spoke about that Scaled Agile framework also provides a mechanism to scale Agile from a team to an enterprise level, which means we also want to create an Agile enterprise. So Scaled Agile framework also provides another layer called portfolio layer, where they provide a mechanism by way of using Kanban process or visualizing WIPs, looking at lightweight business case for big initiatives, aligning the organization strategy with the program development. And this layer is primarily looking towards investment and funding of the release trains, or you can say the 125 people's group. So a portfolio may be managing multi-programs. So one portfolio may be taking care of group of programs which are relevant for their segment. It could be a strategic business unit. It could be a one particular geographical location. So these are the 3 layers of SAFe we can and think of. Now, how things are done, or how execution is done at a SAFe level. The program management layer, the top management layer, is primarily looking towards a lot of business initiatives, and they evaluate the business ideas. Think of that, okay, we want to make a mobile app, we want to take our database to a cloud, we want to migrate our existing system from AS400 to a new technology, web-based product. So such kind of initiative works keeps popping up at organization level or business unit level. But we can't fund everything. We have limited money, limited resources, and such kind of initiative need to be evaluated as per their business values and as per our available capacity. So this work is done by the portfolio group, where they evaluate the new initiative, significantly big initiative, and they put it through a Kanban process where they visualize which initiative stands, and on the basis of capacity available and the business case of that particular initiative, they approve those initiatives for the execution. Once that work is over, the program management layer, which is a middle layer, which helps us in creating a detailed features or a list of features from these big initiatives. So it's like that epic or a big requirements get decomposed into features. Features are still big, but they are far bigger than user stories. They may take multiple sprints before they get done, but they are good planning mechanism or a content capturing mechanism for a program management layer. So we decompose the epics into features, and we maintain a separate backlog, which is called a program backlog. This program backlog is also influenced by the vision and roadmap which we have for this particular Agile Release Train. Now, how we start planning? So these things were getting prepared. The first thing which we do in planning is we prepare a program increment plan. So program increment, we can visualize as that these 125 people thinking of what we can produce in next 10 weeks or in a simple term, you can think of that we do quarterly planning. It's just if we simplify the process. So the program increment is planned during release planning meeting or a program increment planning meeting, and this comes up with a program increment level objective. So PI objective. PI objective can be visualized as that, okay, in next 10 weeks or 12 weeks time, these 125 people wants to achieve these objectives, which are big level features. These objectives are written in a way where business owners, stakeholders can understand them. Once that work is over, we get into team level work. So these program objectives, we get the team level PI objective get decomposed into team backlog. It is something like features are getting decomposed into team backlog item, and we start sprinting as we do in a normal Scrum. In a normal Scrum, we produce our software on an independent basis, on a one team basis, but here you have a multiple teams. And if I want to see, I am a program management level stakeholder, I am a business head of a one unit for whom you are creating a set of features. When I want to have a look at it, I want to know the integrated progress. I don't understand when you talk about an individual user story. So these increments which are getting developed at a sprint level has to be integrated further at a program level and should be demonstrated to program management stakeholders, and this the SAFe team does in the form of system demo. Day-to-day coordination among Scrum teams are done using Scrum of Scrum, using product owner level Scrum of Scrum, where the product owners of respective groups come together and they discuss requirement related work. And planning, coordination, and re-adaptation related to release management or release dates are done in a meeting or a ceremony is called release management meeting. So now the people who are very new to the SAFe, they may find it, okay, there is too much thing here. So at a simple level, you can visualize is that yes, there are teams which are doing primarily the same kind of Scrum ceremonies they were doing before, but there is a program layer, and this layer has few meetings which helps the teams to coordinate their interdependencies, which helps the team to identify what as a one group they can deliver. And this intermediate layer also helps to stakeholder look at the progress in the form of working software which is getting developed by these teams. So how this working software get integrated? So I just wanted to present one more slide showing the value delivery. So each team would be delivering their working softwares or their part of work, and this part get integrated by somebody or a team called system team and get converted into a system increment. System increment is an aggregated or an increment of all teams work. And whenever you have commercial release, so the commercial release not necessarily following a pattern or a cadence pattern, it can be done on demand, it can be done as per the planning. But whenever you want to release it to a commercial purpose, you may do some more activities by involving your teams again and produce a releasable software. So at a SAFe level, you create three types of working software. Working software is a basic working software which is done by the team. System increment is an integrated system working software which gives a progress or a demonstration of the complete group. And releasable solution is the one which goes to the market, which may have some releasable UAT or a extra performance integration testing related steps involved. So this is all the Scaled Agile framework I wanted to talk about. Now, when I was talking about Scaled Agile framework, I spoke about many practices. Like I spoke about there should be a system team, there should be a release management meeting, there should be a Scrum of Scrum Masters, we do product increment planning. Now, each environment may vary. You may have need where you want to do something differently, or you cannot adapt the practice which is coming directly from Scaled Agile framework. So how do you ensure that whatever tailoring, whatever modifications you are doing in those practices is still keeping the SAFe principles, SAFe values intact? in order to ensure that the Scaled Agile framework talks about their principle. So principle is like a fundamental truth or a proposition that serves as a foundation for a system of belief. And you may keep your foundation as it is, but you may implement it differently using some tailoring in practice. For example, you may not do Scrum of Scrum. You may define some other meeting which solves the dependency, fine-grained coordination related requirement of various Scrum team. So SAFe does provide you a proven integrated practices, but as per the environment, as per your organization need, you may do some tailoring. But when you do a tailoring, do look at principles. Do ensure that you keep SAFe principles as it is, and your new practices are adhering to SAFe principles. So what are these principles? We have 9 principles, and these principles are coming from Lean, Agile, product development flow, and lots of SAFe implementation. In last 3 years, the learning which has acquired from real implementation of SAFe and from these books has been consolidated into these 9 principles, and they provide a good direction for any SAFe implementation. Let's look at the first principle. Take an economical view. So it is something like, while you may ignore economics, but it won't ignore you, means you can think of, okay, I don't care about money, I don't care about profitability as a one team or as a one portfolio group, but at the end of the month, when you need to consolidate your expenses, you need to finally have some cash flow. If you don't look at it 1 month ahead, after 1 month you will be facing a problem. It may be an individual for individual also. We may think of, okay, I don't care about money or economics, I just do what I like. But when there is a situation, we cannot avoid looking at economical value. Now, many times in projects, we need to make decisions. A lot of time there are great technical teams which they believe that the technical quality should be perfect. People should develop products with minimal technical depths. Great, there is no harm in it. We should be developing produce great technical product. But are we helping organization to save or make more money by including this technical excellent quality? Now you may argue that quality always returns money. True, but quality is again a degree you meet customer expectation. So you need to, there is always a cost to quality. There is always a diminishing return. There will be a point if you invest more, you don't get more returns. So we should have some economic model for all our project decisions, which helps us in identifying, should we delay the release for 2 sprints, or we release the product in market with known defects. How do you decide? You decide on the basis of economics. You look at the opportunity cost which you may lose if you delay it for 2 months or 2 sprints. You may look at cost of quality which may come because of those defects. It may result into a lot of customer support calls, crashing your system, you may getting penalized, or some customer blacklisting you. It again depends upon the severity of defect and severity of your environment. So the recommendation which this principle coming up with is, look at economics and create a framework for your project decisions which helps team to appreciate economic value of their work, and which also helps team to make decision based on economic value. So develop an economic framework, empower local decision making. Means it should not happen that all decisions are done at a centralized level. If you have a good framework, even teams can make the decision. For example, you may decide, okay, you run a company and you want to empower your front office staff to order courier service. So you give them a guideline that you can use any courier service till the time it delivers in 3 days, and till the time it has it's a range money which is comparable to other market competitors. So you empower. So this is a very small example. In a project scenario, you may provide them a framework, and on the basis of that framework, they decide should they release now, should they delay it, or should they do something else in order to make the maximum economic value out of their decisions. A lot of time we start thinking about money spent. Many times you end up watching a movie because you have bought the ticket. Yeah, why? Because you think that, okay, my money is already gone. I'm sitting in, even if I'm not liking it, let's watch it. So in a project scenario, you could use this particular time doing something else. If this project or this particular entertainment media is not making sense, better to exit now. Let's not focus on the rupees which you have or dollars you have spent in buying the ticket. Now think of what you can do in your rest of your time. If in rest of your time, if you can make more money or can create more entertainment value for you, better do that rather than just sticking here to get penalized for the money which you have spent. So it is a good advice not to consider sunk cost, the cost which has already gone because of the project selection, but consider the incremental cost which you are going to spend more and more because of this particular commitment. We need to sequence the job, sequence the things on the basis of maximum benefits. Where we get more money, you should do those things. So benefit, I'm just using the word money here. There could be a different types of benefit. There could be a customer satisfaction. There could be a social value because it depends upon what type of project you are in. There could be a non-profit organization which is primarily working for generating social impact. So we should do the jobs first which produce more impact. The economic view also talks about that the SAFE also recommends that if you can quantify one thing, quantify the cost of delay. So cost of delay is an interesting concept which primarily talks about what I'm losing, what will this thing cost me if I delay it by 20 days. What is the cost of delay? And this is a very essential parameter or very important parameter which helps us in making economic view based decision. It could be opportunity cost, it could be a penalty which you get because of the delay in delivery. It could be the revenue which you are losing or you could generate if you deliver those particular components. So this is what the first principle is all about. Take an economic view. So whenever you make project decisions, think about what is the economics of this decision is all about. Great. So second principle, apply system thinking. Now many times, so SAFE keep giving recommendation and keep quoting the Deming's code which talks about the system must be managed, it will not manage itself. Now system thinking is more about visualizing the big picture. Many times when we work in a small component, the team don't get a view of what's going beyond that particular component, beyond that particular team. The product management group, the development team should know the big picture. They should see how their work is getting plugged in the overall value creation things. So the value stream or how the various steps get performed before we realize or before we make the profit realize should be considered. We should not focusing on local optimization. Now in a traditional projects, you might have many key performance indicators which are focusing on local department-wise things. Like quality department may have an indicator that you should not have any post-production defect, or means your quality KPI is minimizing the post-production defects. Great. The development team may or a delivery team may have a KPI which talks about your primary focus is generate maximum bills or revenues. Now this team may want to ship something to get a revenue. Quality team may want to focus on that, okay, we should not ship anything till the time we are not sure that we will have minimum post-production defects. So now this team is focusing on local optimization. They are only thinking of their only local KPIs. The another example you can think of, in many times we focus on development productivity. We focus on how many stories has been developed or how many features has been developed. So there is a KPI which is focusing developers to produce more rather than thinking that how many how many features has been deployed to the end customer. So the system thinking focuses on that start from your order, from your customer request, if you look at a value stream mapping concept, and think till you get money for it. So focus on the complete values chain optimization or value stream optimization and think about the big picture. Just don't think about small all things. And system cannot go faster than your slowest component. And you might have heard many times people and trainers talking about the strength of the chain is determined by the weakest link. So yes, you need to think about system. It's not only you, it's the complete group which will deliver. So this is the second principle. Now, these things may look theoretical at this stage, but SAFe2 provides practices to implement it. And yeah, when you get into the details of Scaled Agile Framework, you can look at various practices which makes these things easy and implementable. Assume variability, preserve option. Third principle. Now, many of you who are working as a project manager, I see that we have 60-70% people working as a project manager or project leader from my first poll, knows that nothing is uncertain in a project environment. Nothing is certain in a product development environment, and nothing is certain in a individual day of a person. Things keeps changing. You think of that you will leave at 9 o'clock, something comes in between, you get a phone call in between, and it takes you 10 minutes, and your 9 o'clock thing is in risk. What do you do in the morning? You may skip drinking your tea, or you may skip doing something which you usually do before you leave for your office. So you need to have option. We need to assume variability in our product development flow, and uncertainty would be higher if you are in the beginning or in the early stage of your project. This is a graph which I'm showing, a cone of uncertainty, where you have higher uncertainty at the initial stage, and as you get more and more deeper into the product environment or a project environment, you get more knowledge about the system, people, products, and uncertainty becomes less. But you cannot think of a perfect project plan. You can't think of a perfect project day. You cannot think of a perfect sprint. There will be always variability. And in order to deliver under those variable environment, we need to have some options. We need to keep some options which gives you a time to absorb this variability and still meet your commitments. Many times you are working on something, you think this is a 1 hour job, you end up spending 5 hours and not even realizing that the 5 hours are gone. Many times you end up getting an unplanned mail, phone, SMS from your team members that he cannot come to because of various reasons, valid reasons. So these things will keep happening in sprint in a project environment. You need to assume them, and you need to have some options. So we are not saying that always keep relaxed, buffer, and say that 1 day job will be done in 3 days because you have 2 days of variability preservation. Nobody is recommending that. The recommendation could be, you may start with the 10 items. You say, I will do these 10 items in 3 days, but if something goes wrong, these are the 3 items which I may drop. Okay, so you take these things upfront. You have those discussions upfront. You have an option. The way I was talking about office. So if you're living for an office, you get a phone call in between. You take decisions. Okay, I can still drop these things and still reach on time. Else, we will be late for your office. So that was the third principle, which talks about assume variability and preserve option to meet commitments under uncertain environment. The fourth, build incrementally with fast integrated learning cycle. This is more or less an agile theme. Like whoever working in iterative incremental environment follows this. So if you are not following waterfall, and I assume that most of you either working in agile or some sort of iterative development, because I find difficult to find pure waterfall project nowadays. There are people who think they are working in a waterfall, but actually they are not. They are still delivering things incrementally and iteratively. So this principle talks about till the time you don't show a running system to your stakeholders, you don't see their reaction. You cannot learn the system behavior. You cannot take learning about your architecture. You cannot take learning about your business case. So rather than taking too long and do a lot of documentation work in between, which is like in-process inventory, and producing a big system at the end, better to produce incremental things, especially when you don't know what you are going to produce, because you don't know exactly what the customer is expecting. That is where we are working in uncertain environment. So in those uncertain environment, it always makes sense. It always provide more learning opportunity when we build the product solutions incrementally. We do show the systems in between and take feedback in account before we close it. So this is pretty straightforward, which is quite followed in all agile methods. The fifth principle, base milestones on objective evaluation of working softwares, working systems. Now, what does it mean? The time when we started project management, say 7-8 years ago, during 2001, 2002, 2003, okay, it's more than 10 to 12 years ago, all the monitoring processes were based on percentage completion. We were having long project schedules, and at the end of the week, where I have to generate a project status report, what I have to do is I have to go into various activities and update the percentage completion. Sometimes I use my judgment, sometimes I have a defined rule to complete the percentage completion. And these activities were not directly leading to a verifiable deliverable. Some activities were talking about, okay, have you performed these 10 meetings? Yes, I have done project management meeting, project reviews. Has this technical reviews has been completed? I say, yes, technical review has been completed. Have we captured the requirement document? Yes, we have prepared the requirement document. So on the basis of such kind of tasks, we were evaluating the progress, and we were having milestones like requirement baseline, technical architecture getting baselined, requirement getting reviewed. So such kind of milestones were there, where it was difficult to look at the working system or an evaluation that what has been completed, because everything was in a document. We can just walk through the stakeholder through the document and give him a feeling that yes, we have captured the requirement. Now SAFe recommends that we should base milestones on either business value achievement, like what business value we have achieved by this particular point in time, or working software, or primarily the business value also comes with the working software. So the working systems, working solutions should be used for evaluating the progress. All matrices should consider that are we getting this in a format which can be verified by looking at the system. So rather than saying, this is a basic agile philosophy also, because working software is the only measurement of progress, and SAFe principle is also focusing on that we can have milestones, but they should be objective, they should be linked with objective evaluation of working systems. 6, visualize and limit work in progress, reduce batch size and manage queue length. Now what is this all about? If you ask someone in a development team, maybe an agile team or a so-called agile team also, waterfall agile doesn't make much difference in general, how many say features are under development at this particular stage? In this particular sprint, we have committed 5 user stories. How many are done, or where are they? Do we have an awareness in a team what's going on? Where do we stand? In majority of time, you find that visualization of workflow is not available or is not maintained by the team. So SAFe principle talks about that you should visualize how your work is going. So people who are new to SAFe and Scrum can think of that if I am sitting in my room, I should have clear list of tasks written somewhere, which can say, okay, today before I go home, these things are pending for me. And these things are pending from 10 days. And if I even pass from my working workspace, I know that these things are still pending for me. and this is my queue length. And I can also put a work in progress limits that at a one particular time, pending item is a big queue. Okay, anything can keep getting added to a pending. But when I start working on something, I will not pick the second item till the time I mark this work completed. So I may also produce the SAFe principle recommends that enforcing work in progress limits, that at any given point of time identify how many items could be in progress stage. The advantage of this is it ensures that our flow of things are going fast. We are focusing more on finishing rather than starting. Now, many of us may have an attitude of we start a lot of things. So if we get a new idea, we start working on it. We got a new project, we do some level of coding and we put the story separately because we have explored it. All juicy thing, the thing which was giving us a kick, we have done it. Now closing required some level of rigorous testing, some level of exception handling and getting reviewed and all those things, which may not find me that much exciting. So I will start something else. So what I'm doing by doing all this is I'm blocking the flow. If I finish my work, somebody else can start and put this work into a customer use. So SAFe principle, the sixth principle of SAFe focuses on visualize your work and limit work in progress. Try to work on a small items and do look at your pending queues, the things which are waiting for you, because if you don't manage them well, you may start saying no. If you know that your queue is becoming more than 10, you may look at it and say that, okay, these are the 5 items I am not going to do. Let's remove them from my queue. So this is something, a visualize and limit work in progress. Seventh principle, apply cadence synchronized with cross-domain planning. Now, before I introduce this principle, let me introduce what this cadence is all about. Cadence is something which is a frequent, regular event you do. So it's the concept that determines a rhythm. In a Scrum environment, running 2 weeks sprint is a cadence. Means every 2 weeks we do sprint planning, we do sprint retrospective, we do a sprint review. Every second Thursday, stakeholders can come and see the product demo. It's a rhythm. It's a cadence. Now, usually we visualize these cadences with time boxes like sprint planning. It can be done in a non-time box environment also. For example, you want to get your code reviewed by some subject matter expert, and or you need a domain input from a subject matter expert. And rather than whenever you need an input, you schedule your call and work out that when can we meet and do things which waste your time as well as the expert's time. You may have a cadence. You may have a cadence where he comes to your office every Thursday from 4 to 6. So you keep the work ready for him. If there is some advice which you need from him between 4 to 6, you keep them ready. If you get an idea on Monday, you know that this thing will get resolved on Thursday. So the cadence also make wait time predictable. We can wait if we know how long we have to wait, because we can do something else. The bigger problem in waiting is we are just waiting and expecting that this is going to happen tomorrow, this is going to happen today, this is going to happen day after tomorrow. So the cadence makes wait times predictable. Now apply cadence. So SAFe recommends that we should be doing things in cadence. The second thing which this principle talks about, that synchronize with cross-domain planning. So if you have a multiple domains, multiple teams applying cadence, they need to be also synchronized. So what does it mean? If you have 5 Scrum teams, they should be doing sprint planning on the same day because they are one group. If I have some dependency to that team, if we are synchronized, I can push that dependency to them during their planning stage and they can accommodate it at that point in time. So, and same way, when we want to finish our working increment, we all finish together. So it can be integrated into a system increment, and people can, the people who are sitting at a program management layer can have a look at it. Eighth principle, unlock the intrinsic motivation of knowledge worker. So this is more like a soft skill thing, or this is more like a motivational thing or organization theory, and which focuses on that we should create an environment where work motivates the worker rather than you bring money to motivate the people. So money is important. Money is important. You do pay them, so they remain. The money topic is off the table. So they can take care of their regular expenses, and they do feel a fair treatment. But money, salary remains a hygiene factor if they don't motivate people. But yes, they demotivate people if you don't pay them sufficiently. But beyond that, we should focus on bringing the sense of purpose, the sense of mastery, the freedom which comes from the work itself. The leaders, the scrum masters, or a safe agilist or safe leaders, they should focus on creating an environment where they develop team, where they develop people, and people should get motivated because they are doing great work. So that is, we should have a ceremonies, we should have a retrospective, we should have a respect for people, which generates intrinsic motivation of knowledge worker. And the final one, decentralized decision making. So I am not talking about much this particular slide. I just took an example, and I was looking for something in Virgin Atlanta and talking about some of the experiences, and this quote, this story I was reading from a given link, which was talking about that during a one fog day in San Francisco, one Virgin Atlantica in-flight team took it upon themselves to bring the first class DING cart out to the gate, and waiting passengers were offered complimentary cocktail service before they board the plane. Now, a local team took the decision because they realized that delay of flight is creating good customer irritation or a dissatisfaction, and they can add some level of customer satisfaction by doing this. So idea in a product development environment is the things which are time critical, the decisions which has to be taken very, very frequently should be decentralized. You should not have a scenario where even for a one acceptance criteria or a user story level details, you are going to a program management layer or a product management layer and asking for the details. You should have team or product owner working with a team who is empowered enough to provide that level of visibility. Now, we are not saying this product owner can also decide that this is a new project initiative we will work from next month onwards. Now, the things which requires more money, more capital investment needs to be centralized. You can't just leave them to the people. But you should have a framework which allows people to make decisions which are time critical and which are taken very, very frequently. So decentralized decision making is one of the principle which is recommended by SAFe. So we are open for questions, and yeah, we do provide this SAFe Agilist training, and we are running lots of SAFe Agilist classes in various cities in India. We are doing it in Delhi, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune, Mumbai, Chennai, so many cities, and we are doing this SAFe Agilist class. Even today I was taking SAFe Agilist program in Delhi. So that's the one thing. So if you are interested in knowing more, you can come there. The scaleagileframework.com is a great resource. So if you want to know about Scale Agile, just directly type or Google scaleagileframework.com. The complete framework is available for you for free. And there is no bigger extensive resource of SAFe than Scale Agile Framework. People who are SAFe consultant, SAFe expert, they also refer the scaleagileframework.com for the knowledge, for the references, for the guidance. So if you are finding this thing interesting, get into scaleagileframework.com. You can learn for free. Yeah, you need to pay for certification, but knowledge is free. And yeah, so this is all I wanted to talk about SAFe today. Now I'm open to take questions, and I will look at the question area. And you can remain connected with us. So we have izenbridge.com. We will try to post the video of this particular session on our YouTube channel. And any CSP SEUs related queries, please post them at forum.izenbridge.com. We are helping lots of people to do certification in many areas. So we get many queries related to certifications. So please find a section, appropriate section at forum.eisenbridge.com and post your certification related queries or PDU-SU related queries there. Okay, so it's time to look at the questions. So there was a question from Pradeep. He's asking about this. SAFe is one of the scaling technique. What are the difference between scaling techniques like large scale Scrum, which is called LESS, and there is called disciplined agile delivery, DAT, and the question is asking which is the best. So there is no direct answer. Because it all depends upon in which context you are working. So if you talk this question to Jeff Sutherland, it says that your scaling framework should be as per your context. But having said that, if you do any research on conferences, on Google Words or Google Trends, you will definitely find SAFe is the trending scaling framework. It's the most talked about scaling framework. So I don't say that it is the most suitable. It depends upon your context, but this is a one scaling framework. If you are studying about scaling, if you are doing anything related to scaling agile, you can't avoid it. You should know SAFe well. Now, talking about large scale Scrum implementation, Nexus, they are primarily Scrum based scaling framework. Like in case of SAFe, we were talking about portfolio management, alignment from top to bottom, and we also talk about doing, say, a quarter planning. You can take a program increment planning and doing sprints inside it. Framework like large scale Scrum, they talk about doing everything at a sprint on sprint level. So they do provide a mechanism where multiple teams can collaborate with each other. The fundamental of large scale Scrum, it has two versions, less and less huge. But if you talk about basic less, it talks about that they don't want to dedicate a separate program management responsibility to anyone. They recommend the team themselves should figure out how they want to collaborate with each other. So they recommend that the way we have a self-organizing Scrum team, on the same way they want to propose a self-organizing team of teams. So they don't have a very defined roles at a program layer. They say team should figure it out. They believe in one product owner for the complete group, at least till the time you are small less. In case of a less huge, they do talk about hierarchy. And they do talk about doing all Scrum ceremonies at a scale. So you do a sprint planning together. So you figure out a way where you do a sprint planning in a one group and you deliver things. So yeah, so it depends upon a context, and we did a conversation on this particular topic. It's a big topic. In our previous 1 week ago or 2 week ago, I think 1 week ago we had a meetup in Bangalore, and where we spent good time talking about this particular thing. Disciplined agile delivery is again, it's not only a scaling framework, it can be applied at a small scale also. So the good thing about, or a different thing about less DAD is that less DAD can be started with say 20, 30, 40 people team, but SAFe comes in when you have say 50 plus team members. So it's a framework which is more suitable when you have more team, more complexity in your development. Yes, Kapil, the sixth principle is primarily like visualizing work and workflow. Kanban is a one way of doing it. So the question was, the sixth principle is like Kanban board. So it is, yes, it is more about visualizing the work and WIP limits. It is very much aligned with Kanban principle. So Manoj is asking at what level we should apply work in progress limits, portfolio, program, and team. And the answer is all three, but there is a different way. So at a portfolio level, you may have a Kanban board which visualizes that which all initiatives are at what particular stage. So you may limit that at a given stage, you cannot have more than n number of initiatives. At a program level, you put WIP limit by selecting only, by default, it says top 10 features for your program increment planning. So you don't commit many things. So you do a program increment planning, or you can say that you make your 10 weeks plan and you limit the work which you take for the 10 weeks. In the same way, at a team level, the sprint planning or a committing for a sprint goal is a one way of applying WIP. So, and inside working also, the team can follow task board, by applying WIP. So this is a principle, and recommendation is by everyone. Okay, so Mudit was talking about cadence is commonly used by cyclists. So that is a new thing. So SAFe certification exam cannot be taken directly. The way the Certified Scrum Master exam process works, in a similar way, the SAFe Agilist certification process also works. All SAFe certification processes has a mandatory requirement of attending classroom training. So you need to attend a classroom training, then only you can appear for an exam. Classroom training will include the examination fee. So do you have a prerequisite for these kind of SAFe certification training? The answer is yes, but it is not validated. But the recommendation is, before you talk about SAFe, you should know Agile well. So you should have good grip on Agile. Preferably you should be done with one or two Agile certification, because just in order to scale Agile, you should have Agile first. So in order to learn scaled Agile framework, one should know Agile first. So that's a prerequisite. The Anshuman is asking that information radiator will be on a team level or a top level too. The idea is transparency. So SAFe does has a value called transparency, and we need to have matrices at all the levels, and we do need to have information radiators also at all the levels. So at a portfolio level, you may have an information radiator which is like a Kanban board, which is showing the progress of various epics. At a program management layer, you may have an information radiator of a program board which shows all the dependency and interdependency of features, and showing that how these features are going to get delivered in a given program increment. And at team level, you have burn down chart, you have Kanban board, task board, all these sort of information radiators. So Metascrum, Ashish, is a scrum of product owners. And yes, SAFe does talk about POs doing a Scrum of Scrum, which is, the question was, is the Metascrum, Scrum of Scrum is somehow related to SAFe? So it is, yes, Scrum of Scrum is a practice which is primarily coming from basic Scrum only, but yes, it is recommended to be used here. Now, one question is coming, is it possible to work with waterfall and SAFe environment in a one go? Now, many SAFe implementations has been done where external vendors are involved. So you can declare your waterfall team as an external vendors, and you may track the dependencies in your program board. But if you say that you have a one team waterfall and another team in Scrum, and they are part of a one Agile release stream, this is not possible, because the team has to follow the small increments. They have to integrate their working software at the end of 2 weeks of sprint, and things has to be done in a PI level and a sprint level. So if you have an external vendor using waterfall, that could be a possible scenario, and you may treat him on the basis of integration point or an external dependency. But inside the SAFe environment, it's a bit challenging. So one question is coming, and I think many times when we talk about SAFe, it looks like that Mahesh is asking that scope is fixed in a sprint. Does the scope of a release is also fixed? Now, we should keep in mind, even at a sprint level also, the fix is something which is more sprint goals. So in Scrum also, we try to meet sprint goals rather than a sprint scope. So, but yes, in general, we try to achieve our commitment which we make in a sprint planning meeting. At the same level, when you talk about program increment, so you can think of a 10-week cycle, we do have committed program objective. So you can think like, the way we have a sprint goal, you do have a program objectives, and team do commit to achieve program objective. Now, program objective does not mean that they need to do all the stories which they have planned or which they have thought in release planning meeting. There are some ways to ensure that they still achieve a program objective by taking care of variability in account. So there is a concept called stretch objective. There is a concept called putting some level of contingency reserves at various stages. Okay, so I think I'm done with lots of queries. Okay, so one question which I just wanted to take from Manoj, it is saying that I mentioned that SAFe suggests that release change should take more or less 5 sprints, where the scope is decided upfront as program potentially shippable increment planning is still agile. So as I clarified in the previous question, it is not about scope, it is about program increment, first thing. Second thing is, the SAFe recommends the way we do sprint, can we close the sprint without meeting the sprint goals, or should we extend the sprint? The answer is we must close the sprint as the time box is over and we take the work into a product backlog, and it may get scheduled into a next sprint. Similarly, when we talk about 10-week time box, or we can think of a program increment, we try to meet our objective. Again, it is not a detailed scope inside the 10 weeks, but if we don't do it, still we expose our status to all the stakeholders the way we do in a Scrum. At the end of a sprint, we do give a sprint demo. Here also, at the end of a program increment, we give a program increment demo to big stakeholders, say 120, 25 people. And if something is not achieved, we take learning into account and we start the next program increment. So each program increment is not linked with commercial release. It's not like that you cannot finish program increment without making commercial release. These things are separate. So you achieve program increment goals in 10 weeks time. If your objective was including commercial release, you must try to do that. You must plan for it. If you can't, you still close your program increment and you plan for another 10 weeks. And in that 10 weeks, you figure it out how you are going to release it. So it's a planning rhythm you can think of. In case of a SAFe, you have a 2 sprints or a 2 exploration cycle rather than a sprint. You have 2 exploration cycle. Small exploration cycle works for 2 weeks for a small teams, and big exploration cycle is for the complete group. So don't think of that manager will keep you accountable if you don't deliver it, and SAFe talks about things are fixed. Now in 10 weeks, you need to fix this and you don't have any flexibility. It's not like that. Now, some people may implement like that, but the intent was never like that. No project planning can give 100% or a foolproof plan. That is why the SAFe principle talks about assume variability, preserve option. You should have an option. So that is something I wanted to talk about, Manoj. And thanks for raising this particular point. And thank you, friends, for joining today's web event. I understand that it was a bit complicated because I had to introduce SAFe as well as SAFe principles. So some of you who are not coming from Agile and SAFe background might be finding this is difficult. But thanks for participating here. And for continuous interaction, please do come to our forum.eisenbridge.com. You will get PDF mail after 24 hours. If you don't get it, please come to forum. So look at forum for all PDUs, SEUs related queries. If you don't get your answers, raise a thread in a forum. I or my team will definitely look at it. Thank you for joining. And yes, we will be organizing many of such events in future. Thank you.